Greetings, greetings, Grand Rising. It's a brand new day. Don't let life showers bring blues your way. 'Cause we must declare what shall be coming. We have got the power to make it be. Grand Rise, it's a brand new day, even though the hour has not yet bring us the sunlight of the new day. We know it's a brand new day. They say the evening and the morning was the first day. We're just gonna say we're clocking. But what we're clocking is not that time. No, no. The day we're clocking is we're in the age of revelation. And what I want to speak about is spirituality versus religion. Wow, right? Spirituality versus religion is not something we can easily avoid noticing these days. It's actually causing such an uproar in all of our families and our communities. We can't help but miss it, but see it. So I'm just wanting to go live here and speak about what I actually see is a growing issue. Now, the issue is going to continue to grow, or they say wax on, wax off. And that's because the time has definitely changed. We're in the information age. We know what's going on. And we don't have to go to school to acquire this knowledge. We know what's going on. Many of us are awakening and at high rates, at high rates. And the knowing is not something that we can get away from. I'm very grateful to be able to um, be where I'm surrounded by so much information because I also was searching and I'm very hungry for knowledge. I continue to search and I know that that will be a lifelong journey searching. So I would like to just take a moment or two and reflect on religion versus spirituality and what's going on in the so-called black communities. And that's not a subject only for those who look like we, but it's a subject for all because all are gathered. I think that when they say we're all connected, we're truly all connected. Greetings, greetings. How are you? Thanks for joining. I do truly know that we're all connected. I'm going to speak because I know that this is being recorded and I will be able to post this. And, even if no large crowd gathers tonight, we definitely will be able to reflect. But I'm taking a moment just to look at the plight that we're in with religion versus spirituality. And what I see in our communities and our families is so much, it's almost like, hey, we can just have a real Bible study about this. We can just have a real Bible study about this. And the letters that used to jump out to my heart was always written in red. Greetings as you come in. I'm really in love with the letters that were written in red in the scriptures. And as we pick up those scriptures and we look at what stands out, what really spoke to our heart, it was the words of the firstborn of many brethren, if you may. And the firstborn of many brethren, they called him first to our ears was Jesus. Then we heard something of a Jewish name of Yeshua. And then when we get down into the etymology of the word, of his name, his origin and all that stuff, I settled right now with Yahweh Shai. But it was not the name but the fame that drew us in to the movement. I will say the Christ movement. If we can say the Christ movement, we'll be doing really, really well. The Christ movement, because that's somewhere that the ground is not slippery or sinking. It's not sandy there. It's more of a firm, earthy foundation to say the Christ movement. Now, those words that were written in red, they spoke to us more than any so because those were the words of the master teacher of the time or the one for all of the power movement of that time. It was the firstborn of many brethren or the son of the Most High, if we can say it like that. Okay? Because we want to keep this universal. One thing I've learned for sure as we gather with other cultures, there's a story, especially in esoteric knowledge. There's a story that continues to be the same, but the names change. But it's always the same type of heroic figure and those that they came that they came to enlighten, if you will. The enlightenment of the Christ movement began with one that we first knew from an immaculate conception. And we fell in love with that. And that as we followed that trail, because when we come in, we're coming in the Christian age, okay? Remember, we're coming in right now in the Christian age. And as we follow that trail, there's breadcrumbs, if you may. And some people go like this in service as they're getting the, we heard about the gospel. We heard about it. And first they say, where are you going to be reading with? What's your study guide? We say, well, give us a book. And then they say, well, we're going to settle down with the King James Version. And that seemed to be I want to say the catalyst of them all, the King James Version. And when we actually look at the words that were written in red, they spoke to our heart because they were for our salvation in this time. We didn't really care about all of the broken English and whether you're getting this terminology, that term, but we were sold because we were told to use the King James Version as far as our teachers and all that. They said use the King James Version, so we did that, okay? Now, I am one to say that I know that I firmly fought for the King James Version. Um, the letters that were written in red, they told us to, not to give our power away, and not to believe in those higher than you, putting people over you and all this. And the words of the man that spoke the words that were written in red, we found him often disputing in the synagogues the things that were being taught. We found him often rooting for the underdog, coming to save those who were in trouble with the law, the woman with the issue of blood. He saved her from physical ailment. Um, and she couldn't even afford her care. It was just running her down, and she was getting no help. And then, so it's legal because he took, remember, Mary off of death row. She was about to get executed. So yeah, and so that's he went to battle for her from in the law. Then he went and healed people in the medical, and then in the spiritual, like I said from the beginning, he was found in the synagogues. Now, this is the man that letters were written in red that we were following. This is the one that said we were to be seekers. This is the one that said, don't call me good. This is the one that said, don't call me father, get up when someone tried to bow to him. This is the one that we're supposed to be following. What gets me It's how we have made an idol. An idol. We have created an idol out of the first love, out of our first love. I say our first love because many of us were seeking what we call salvation, safety, family, connection, identity, love, right? When we came across the story of one that would save all, one that came, that would accept us as we are. Now, if I want to do a Bible study and just really focus in on the words that were written and read, because those are the words of the leader of the age of Christianity. Now, I'm saying that because we're doing a conversation about religion versus spirituality. How's everybody doing? Are you a Bruce? I don't follow anyone. I love everyone. I love everyone. I don't like everyone, but I love everyone. Because one thing I've learned is that we're all connected. There's many sides of me. See, there's many sides of me. And when I encounter someone, first thing I want to know is, what did you come here for? Did you see? So I'm going to offer that to my audience. Did you see the title? This is spirituality versus religion. And what we're asking is, what's going on in the black communities? And I like to say that with all puns intended, because I'm not, I'm not making light, but black, when I hear that word, to me, it's darkened. To me, it's without light. To me, it's just as the history of those who look like me, blotted out so much that you cannot see the true reality of who are we. I'm going to say it like that. I'm called Nkechinyre. I'm also Sissy, singer-songwriter. But I have a very big passion for now, for truth. I'm here now. And I see that there's an issue in our communities, and it starts with identity. It starts with identity. We're fighting religion versus spirituality. We're torn, don't know where to go. And depending on where you give your energy, your focus, it's gonna outcome. It's gonna actually determine our outcome or our arrival or our destination, if you will, because we're going somewhere. Yes, we're all going somewhere. Now, even those who don't look like me but are more fair, even, hey, called white, we're all connected. So whatever happens to us is going to be a direct reflection, not for reflection, but connection to a change also in them or you or whoever. Now, I'm saying that because we're all connected as a people, but what's happening in our black communities? I find that there are less people truly affected and connected by religion than the black communities, especially when it comes to progression, because religion is connected to our stagnation. Religion is directly connected to our stagnation. Has anybody realized that? Because when you're sitting down with your hands folded and your heads bowed, life is passing you by. You're hoping that someone comes from above to save us. But we have not yet went in and up to save ourselves. Now, when we look at the life of Yahushua, Yeshua, some still call him Jesus, we don't really allow those red letters to come out as they should. I wrote a song called Red Letters. You know, red letters. But the red letters mean more to me than any of the other writings in the New Testament book, if I can say that. Because it speaks to me as how do I need to be walking? And the words that came out that told me that there's going to be mother against daughter, father against son. Anyway, family members rising up against family members in the last day. When it said, "Are you offended because I called you gods?" When they said, um, so many different things, they gave me clues because when I went in and I sat in the pews, I was not being directed the same way. In fact, I was taught to worship the minister just about, or worship the Christ through the man, basically. But you're honoring, respecting, reverencing this man who stands before you, and he gives you a time to come in and what to do, and he gives you a direction to follow. And you're so busy being a good brother or sister in the congregation that you have no direction of your own. You have just received direction. Yet each of us come with our own blueprint or our own mission, if you will. We all take on the Christ mission, if I can say that. We take on the mission of Christ, the Christ mission, but we use our own desires. Some might want to be a doctor, some might want to be a counselor, some might want to be a builder, some might want to, but you take your own desire and you go with that as you enlighten others into the Christ consciousness. That's what we were taught. Now, if one came to teach us not to get so much caught up into what other men say, because there's no man good. Stop calling people good. So much so that you give your power away. That's what I understood. So when I had a question, I raised my hand. When I didn't have a husband, I was able to do that. Because in the church, if you have a husband, they don't want you to ask. You have to ask your husband at home. And I don't want to offend anyone. I can cover my head a little more. But what I'm saying is, what I'm saying is this: religion versus spirituality. There's a big battle in the family units right now, especially in the black communities, because so many are going inward. They're getting they're asking questions. They're getting those answers when they couldn't get them inside of the church groups. They're getting them. This is the information age. So what's happening is they're coming home from college, coming home where the real debates happen in a free environment. And they're enlightened in a different way. They've discovered this and discovered that. And more so of who they are as a people. And this is why I singled out when I said black communities. We're the ones called black, dark and blotted out when we don't even know who we are. Okay? If you don't know who you are, then they can tell you who you are and you'll believe it because you come out as the geese do. Who's my mommy? And who can I follow? And then we follow. So what I know for sure is when your questions can't be answered in the pews, but it's a desire and a burning question. In an information age, there's so many ways to look, and those questions are being answered today. I know that for sure. So what does it look like now when someone decides that they don't want to say Jesus anymore? and they don't want to go to First Baptist African AME Church of God in Christ or whatever. And the family is like, what are you going to do now? So, what are you going to do now? Let me see what this says. Add a question sticker. Oh, yeah. You know, the way I see things, there's a book called Black Root Science. Well, you can go to YouTube and put in Black Root Science, and there was an interview between African esoteric teacher, I want to say seer or some of the sort, and a Muslim man. Can I just say it like that? And the questions were extremely deep, and there was a big investigation done on this for the accuracy. And as far as creation goes, I know that we look at things so generically. And I like one thing that sticks out to me from reading Black Root Science or even listening to the interview if you don't want to get the books on YouTube. One thing that stood out to me is the word Adam. And the way Adam um, was also a pun, if I can say, for the science behind the atom. So it sounds like Adam, but it's Adam. Okay, so I like to be able to speak to everyone who has a question because what I say is that the most intelligent mind is what we have emanated from, if I can say it like that, and the most intelligent mind is going to have an answer for everyone. Bing. So since it's going to have an answer for everyone, I like to say those who are don't that are leaning on the side of I don't believe that there's a God or atheist or prove it, you know. I think that to understand the creation of in a scientific manner is very intelligent. You must be able to answer those questions for them. So Adam, and getting back to the way that intelligence emanated into man. I like that. So if you get a chance, look at that. But the fight in the black communities is very, very serious because there's a study that says so many of the different denominations use the King James version of the Bible. And the King James version of the Bible is one of the oldest ones, and definitely as a colonization of these lands were an act. It was. I don't think that a lot of people realize, though, or even think about what King James was doing before 1611 and what book he printed right before he printed the Holy Bible. What if we thought about that for a moment and said, just to be the angel's advocate, what if, what if our people went back to what we were doing before Christianity began, before it was introduced to us, before it was forced upon us, before all that. And they go back to it. Right before, like I said, the Holy Bible was published by King James, the book that he published before then was one of sorcery, if you will, one of demonic activity and that, if you will. And in that time, as well, the whole world was partaking in spiritual activities, if you will. We hear a little bit of the tone in the words of Yahweh Shai as he wanted to clean us from such sacrifices of animals and different things, right? Um, but I just like to fast forward that time to thousands of years forward to when our people lost our identity and thinking of the ways and the reasons why. Now, the fight in the homes today over religion versus spirituality is mostly because people don't understand what's going on when their loved ones leave Christianity. That has become a safe space. You know you're going to be praying to Jesus. It's going to be turn the other cheek. We're not eye for iron. And, it's a safe space. And I think that's very important in our communities, a safe space, because I think that deep inside of us, deep, deep, deep in our blood, maybe, there is history and memory. There is memory of when we had different gifts and was more uh, active with the herbs and all that. And I think that a lot of people did a lot of crazy things to each other. Because today, as you look on TikTok and everywhere, you see readers everywhere who read tarot, and you see um, people who perform Reiki, which is what Yahweh Shai did. He can heal you. Just say the word. If you believe, he can do it from right where he is. So you see people performing Reiki. You see, what else do we see? We see people saying you want to get back at your ex. You see people offering to do things, right? And it's like they're not all good. Just like you also see herbs to heal and this, that, and the other. We knew how to do a lot of things, and there was also a lot of things that were wrong going on. And I think that we don't trust each other. We don't trust each other. Deep, deep, deep down, we don't trust each other. And I think that that's okay. That's okay not to trust, because we should always be cautious, because everyone who is leaving Christianity for the Christ consciousness, they're trading, like, I'm speaking of the ones, it's like a few groups, or more than a few. I'm going to just speak about a few groups. Those who are leaving Christianity for the Christ consciousness, meaning the study of the mind, the brain, the head, the understanding about the way it operates, the glands, okay, and what it is to be able to operate in the Christ consciousness and what that requires of the physical body, the chakra systems, the alignment, not wasting yourself away. There's a whole alignment with that. So that's one group of people. It's Christ consciousness, okay, coming into your own. And then there's a people that they want to get into the full-fledged spiritual movement of uh, getting people back and all that stuff. I like to look at that not so on the. I don't want to label it for any reason, but I just think that it's. I don't like that. Only because when you have a spiritual gift, first of all, why would you use it for evil? Why would you use it against people? Why would you use it? We're intelligent enough to come to this place where we know that people have ups and downs. Everybody has them. So when someone's having a season in their life where they've made a bad decision, why would we why would we hold them in that space forever, judge them, persecute them, do spiritual things against them? I think we're too quick. That's why it was a need for the high mind of the Christ consciousness, because those people who operate in that spiritual realm, they're not doing so in the consciousness of the Christ mind, because that's a higher space. Now, people can actually operate in a capacity where they understand their spiritual abilities. They can practice and develop spiritual abilities as well. We see that going on. And when you do that, you have a responsibility to um, use it in a proper manner. And what happened before, and this is what I feel, in the communities of people who look like me, right? I think, this is just, don't come for me. Say what you think. Tell me what you think. But I used to always say, I don't want to do what my ancestors did because I don't want to get what they got. I don't want to just do what they did and end up back like I'm going to be back right here again. I don't want to do that. But even from reading like Black Root Science, I consider myself every woman. She's all in me. So I'm the mother of every woman. I look at every woman, and I can relate to some degree, okay? Because I'm the mother. Yes, I am. Right? I am. Yes. I can run that down for you in a different way. But right now, I know that we were given like books like Black Root Science, all this knowledge has opened up to us for we to understand how we're all connected. How, okay, maybe not all, but okay, because there's layers and levels to this. But I'm going to stay on one level and break that layer down with religion versus spirituality and how it's really affected us and what's going on in our communities, Black communities as well. There's really a fight because people are afraid of their family members. They don't know if they can eat from them. They don't know why they burning the candle, why they set up an altar, what kind of money, what they burning, what they pouring out libations. But what I see is that they're very comfortable in Christianity, where the ones that pulled out are not those other groups. Some are looking at it like, oh, there's power being that was used against us, still being used against us, and they just want to get back at everybody and just make money off of their gift that they've gotten. That's what they want to do. Okay? That there are consequences to that energy. I believe that. There's consequences to that energy. I know that in my family, there's a story about my grandfather. And he had spiritual gifts, like all of us do. And he was playing cards. All we knew growing up is that we were told that he committed suicide. So we thought that our grandfather committed suicide. But later I discovered, not long ago, they said it that way. But what actually happened was a distant cousin came to town to play games, and my grandfather was a gambler. A distant cousin came to town, and they were playing a game. I don't know if it was cards or dice. And grandfather used his spiritual gift to win the game. Now, the distant cousin got word after he lost that the spiritual gift was used. This is how I received the and that distant cousin was not to be played with, and he lost his life over it. So the type of things that were being done back in the day in our families, um, for little as men and jealousy and all of this stuff. This the same energy that's going on today. The same energy that's going on today in our communities. Jealousy, envy, pettiness. Petty. Why would there be mother against daughter, father against son, and all of this division in your household? Why would Yahweh Shai say that? And who is it today that actually looks like they're following the red letters? Now, if we look extremely careful, we'll look at where are the wolves in the sheep clothing. We read about that there will be wolves in sheep clothing. We read about that, right? Okay. Let's not forget. We read about there will be those who are in, they will be called the synagogues of Satan because there was such a deception that was to be going on in these times, even is now. As we look out and realize what time it is, what day it is, what age we're in, we have to realize that the words of red, the red letters have to come out in a different way because we have to be careful that we don't come one day and they say, Lord, Lord, didn't I do many wonderful things in your name? Didn't I? And he says, excuse me, I don't know you. The knowing has to be a relationship between a sensei or teacher and a student. If I came to teach you that you are God's, oh, did I offend you? That I called you because I called you God's? That's directly a quote in red letters. So I'm saying if we follow those red letters and they said seek, if we follow those red letters and it said go, if we follow those red letters and it said that we will do greater things, if we follow those red letters and it said physician somewhere, is it red letters that said physician heal thyself? All I know for sure is we were being taught by Yahweh Shai that we can heal ourselves, that we can heal, that we can um, do so many great things, and we don't have to give our power away. And that led him to be called a devil. They killed him because he said he was the son of the Most High. And if you tear this temple down, I'll bring it back in 3 days. So there was a slaughter, or not a lynching, but a hanging, a crucifixion, because he went about doing good. It wasn't just because he went out about doing good. He went about giving people their power and telling people who they were and waking people up. But what's going on right now? Why is there such a great division? Because people still love the words of the Christ, or the firstborn of many brethren. They're coming to their Christ consciousness, but they're breaking away from the colonized religion. There's a war. Now, you know what side of the war I'm on, I think by now, right? How can we be on one side of a war when all friendly fire directly is connected to our heartstrings? Because these are family members we're talking about. We're talking about families torn. What is the big deal with religion in the first place? Remember? It's tied to identifying salvation. It's the identity crisis. And it's tied to help me, save me. What's going to happen to me? Who am I? Are you my daddy? It's an identity crisis. It is. It's a very big one. People don't want to lose what they know. But let me just break down something for a minute. Let's talk about what we know in our community. If anybody has anything to say, leave it. I'm going to be on here for a minute. I'm taking my time. Hopefully, I can chop some of this. But the identity crisis that we're having in our community, that's tied to religion, salvation, and not wanting to let go of what we know. What we know is this: since we have been colonized, we have not been respected. We have not been accepted. We have not been supported. We have not been protected. And what do we have to lose? What really do we have to lose? Our salvation, right? We're waiting. We're waiting. It's not funny, but we're waiting to pass away and go into another realm to receive justice, acceptance, full acceptance as a people. That's what it looks like for us to be waiting for the second coming of Jesus, if I can say it like that. But when we're looking for the second coming of Christ, and we understand that that's the Christ consciousness, it's here. We're in the age of revelation at this time. All things are being revealed. And now the mind of Christ, the Christ consciousness, is being spread throughout the earth. We're no longer looking for a man to come from the sky that looks like an image that we've already seen. And we've had the receipts to know that this was an image of a man who did not have the fame. And we even know now that it couldn't have been the name that has been stuck to his claim, because there was no J until several hundred years ago. There was no letter J. So they did not say Jesus. No, they did not. It's closer to Jesus, isn't it? Which is closer to Zeus, isn't it? Well, the religion has allowed King James to have two bestsellers that did a number on the black community, in my opinion. Okay? Because after he published the book that was not a holy book, but the opposite, then he published the King James Version of the Bible, the 1611 version. Okay? But it still held too much truth, too many truths, too many nuggets, and the people were still too powerful. But the spells that were in that first book were definitely transformed into ritualistic witchcraft, sorcery for the Christian community, especially the blacks. And I say that with I say that knowing that it's not easy to hear. I'm going to say it like that. I say that knowing that that's not easy for everyone to hear. But when we look at the energy that's being expelled from the black communities into Christianity, and we see that in spite of all that, I'm going to say it like this, the blacks have done, we still have not received not even reparations for the fights, the struggle, all of the time. And you would say, isn't this America? Isn't this a Christian democracy? Isn't this the land where people can come and get, if they need to, they can come here and find shelter from a war, from unfair treatment. You know, they can come here. This land has not allowed for support. This land, okay, let me say it like this. Let me change that, erase that. This United States government, if I can say it like that, and this is for educational purposes only, has not allowed for the truth to come forth. But religion is, to me, what do you think? The witchcraft that keeps perpetuating the spiritual permission or connection or tie to the yoke of bondage. I really feel like religion is a direct cord to bondage. And I say that because of the rituals that continually around the calendar continually come from the black community into this system. The religious system is directly connected to the government system, which is directly connected to the education system, which is directly connected to, it's all connected. And all of them, nowhere in any of these institutions can we go and receive the truth about our identity. So the war is going to continue because some people saying we're not going back to sleep. We won't go back to sleep. Especially when you have the ministers inside of these churches that are actually the wolves in the sheep clothing that leave the pulpit and go home. They go home into the houses where they college aged sons and daughters and those hungry minds, they watch these men. They know their character. They know that the words that were in red letters that came out as a teacher instructing us how to put on our power, how to empower ourselves, how to have integrity and a goodly character would not do half the things that these ministers do when they leave that pulpit. And they get so many people in the congregation to give them their energy as they speak out their raring accusations and I'm saying that because they took on the energy of King James. The sorcery that he suited up and delivered under his administration for us has done a magnificent job in keeping us, because we perpetuate the same rituals over and over again in our communities. That's why there's a war. That's why there is spirituality versus religion. Our people are afraid that they can't pull their sons and daughters back to church anymore. They're not coming back. The ministers are trying. They're not coming back. And they're wondering, what are you doing now? You have these beads on and crystals and you meditating now and what are you doing? Is this some type of hoodoo, shoodoo, voodoo? They're afraid. And they have a right to be, because they have it in their memory. First thing that we have to do is to know that there are two sides to this spiritual warfare, good and evil. To know that, sure, there was a man that came along to teach us, and his example was so great. And yes, you know what they did. You know. You know. But he wasn't the only one. There was Simon Toku, Simone Kambachu, I hope I'm not killing it, and Simeon Impade, if I may. These were more recent Christ conscious, powerful men who did great things as well. Great. And their names, especially Toku, Simon Toku, were Noise the Bride. And a lot of us were born. Yeah. While there was many great things going on, but we have not heard it. It has not been published, because if it had, not only would you be able to relate to what they look like, but the truth of their walk is still present in the people of today. And you can go and see the evidence of it, and it is noised abroad if you know how to seek for it in this information age. What does that do to empower us? These men use their energy for good. They use their gifts for good. And the story of Simon Tokum and the way that they went through great measures to get him out of here and end him, unalive him, and the way his spirit persevered and delivered the message, the warning to them that there'll be nothing they can do, because in just a little while, there's going to be so many, and there's nothing you can do about it. Well, that is the time right now. We do need to be afraid. There should be some concern with spirituality versus Christianity versus religion. Religion is not just Christianity, but it is a marginalization of your spiritual gifts, because you're marginalized whenever you allow a man, whenever there's a place where you won't be able to go. Now, there are some places that we don't want to go because we have no place there spiritually. I'm speaking physically, spiritually, but I'm speaking spiritually. But when it comes to our abilities and judging what we can and what we can't do, coming into our full power, galvanizing so that our gathering can actually mean something. When it comes to that, there's so much that we can do as a unit together, that is one of the main sources of our change, galvanizing. If we come together, our change in our communities, in our families, will be very great. But that's such a challenge. When mother doesn't trust son and daughter doesn't trust father, and so on. I'm speaking only about spirituality because they're not on the same page. I know the division that is put between us is also part of the chaos magic that's been thrown against our community for such this time. Who thinks that a people who authored a book such as the one that was authored by King James right before the Bible, who thinks that they would forget about all of those Harry Potter potions and jump over into Christianity so fast and leave all that alone and tell everybody walk this road like this? And it's just a coincidence that the first handlers of that knowledge are now under the gospel, the God spell, the spell. Sleep, disenfranchised, unidentified. Could it really be a coincidence? So, when it comes to spirituality versus religion, I think the issue is more so that we continue to give our power away doing rituals in these religious groups. The rituals, especially in Christianity and Catholicism. I'm just saying, can we think about that? Maybe. What if? I'm just saying, what if? It's just a what if. What if? What if our people continue? That's the actual thing that's keeping some people up here and some people. Maybe it's not going to be against them because the way that it was designed, like the spell, the way that it was put together. So, yeah, I do think that. What do you think? Hmm? I would love to hear it. So that's about all I want to say right now. I think that religion versus spirituality is going to continue to be an issue for us for a while, but moving forward, there would be a great ideal for everyone to start having a conversation with their family members and asking them, not assuming what they do, why they're doing it, where they get their information from. All of these things are very important. And you should not take the Christianity road and think that you're doing the best thing and what they're doing is the worst thing. It should be a conversation. Sit down and actually dissect everything. And I am going to say this without apology, especially with everything that's going on right now. With the vote that was done concerning the reparations of us, and Also, the conditions of that the president at this current time, and how many blacks have lost their positions and their jobs, even in the military. How many are no longer um, being able to climb, to enter in the capacity, if I can just say it like that, or ranking, um, um, the recognition of a people who've already fought a battle to say, hey, we deserve equal rights. But now to understand that it's not going to get better. It's not going to get better unless we understand we can't accept what was given to us and do it as a spiritual connection, then think we understand witchcraft. When we are the ones that are apparently asleep and are the major sheeple that are falling, you know. So where's the witchcraft being done? We can't say now. My theory is that maybe we fell under the spell and was allowed to be captured because we were not. See, okay, I was just taking the power away, putting it somewhere higher, and saying we deserve to be in this situation. Like karma got us. I do believe in karma. I do. But I also know that there's a time on things because it's been foretold. And if there was a time foretold and some clues along the way, then definitely when Yahweh Shai came to teach us, it was for a reason. There were some things already that people were doing that they should not be doing to one another as family. I think there's a lot of jealousy, a lot of craziness out there. People are jealous of you just because of who the Most High made you to be. And they call themselves spiritual religious. People are married to people who are warlocks. Hmm. Warlocks. Just because you're a man don't mean you can't do evil things. Look at Harry Potter's show, how many people were being trained in there to learn alchemy and all of this stuff. And you can use your knowledge for good or evil. We learn that in life, definitely. We know that. You can use your knowledge for good or evil. We know that. We know that. I don't care what it is. You can't go be say I'm a Christian and that means that you're good. Oh no. Because remember that when Christianity began, there was a lot of bloodshed to create it, right? You know that, right? People who did certain things or knew how to heal with certain concoctions of two, three, four, five herbs, you know, or anything or anyone that showed any type of power and energy of knowing of their self, or just because you had a certain land, you were posted as a yard lamp on a stick and lit. And this is in the books of the making of Christianity. So I don't see the history of Christianity as some people see it. And I think for us to close our eyes to that is part of the spell. Part of the spell. How can we not be under the spell if we don't remember how that whole trail was? And even to the people that look like me, and we were in this land, so my mother says, and free, on my mother's side, that is. We suffered in this land. The blood of our ancestors is still in us. We will be visited from the forefathers. So for me, from me, my mom's, my mom's parents, and their parents, 4 generations. That knowing, that bloodline connection is still alive in me. Yes, yes, their energy, their nervous system that I inherited. I know some things, and so do you. One thing we know is that it's high time, and we're not going back to sleep. So this religion versus spirituality in the black communities, we have to get it together. You can't use your gifts for evil because this new spot, this new land, this new dispensation, you can't come with that attitude. Just like you see the Epstein's being cleaned up and the Diddy's being cleaned up and the Kelly's being cleaned up, if you can say it like that, and a whole lot of others being exposed. We're not making a place for you. The families right now are doing their dividing. So my heart right now is for the families to carefully evaluate because there will be strong delusions that come to us. Strong delusions to put you against your loved one. Why? Because of the differences in the levels and layers that are being peeled away right now. We have to, this is where the scriptures that says, um, pray for your loved one, pray for your enemies. They weren't talking about the people that, they were not talking about those who are on the other side of the door coming to break you and take you and all everything else. They were not talking about that. They were talking about the one, I believe. He's talking about those in your household, in your family. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. We have to have a heart of forgiveness. But remember who betrayed Yahushua. Wasn't it like his bestie? Yeah. Your bestie can betray you. Even unto death. When I think about the Bob Marleys, when I think about the Marcus Garveys and so many others that have been sold out, I think about Judas. I think about our own families. But what I know for sure is that when we pray for our enemies, we pray for our family members, we pray for those who are going through um, changes in religion and versus spirituality because we don't want to be afraid of them. We don't want to be afraid. And look how wicked that is. That we'll be afraid of our loved one. If that ain't a spell to make you say, well, I don't trust my loved one because I don't know what they might do because they're not a Christian anymore. And we were comfortable with the Christians. And there are so many that stand in the pulpit and they want to harvest your energy. They want to swap your destiny for theirs. They want to do things that we never heard of because they didn't teach us about that in Bible study. They didn't. They did speak about immolators. They did speak about extortioners. But it wasn't broken down to us Now we know that that Bible is looked at literally for a lot of people called spooks, but for some people it's looked at as a financial or a guide, if you will, and how to navigate this um, this position in governmental structure, right? Especially the financial swords. But spiritually is what we came to that book for. Spiritually is how we've been entrapped in the King James Version of the Holy Bible. Spiritually is where we learn to fear one another, but to mark one another. If they don't say what King James said, turn them in. It kind of reminds me of plantation when there was some that wanted to be free, and then they had a close one that they may be speaking to that was warning them, don't run, you're going to cause a problem, you're going to get us all upset. It kind of reminds you of that. And like they kind of be compelled to say, well, I'm going to go tell because I'm not going to get in trouble. They would tell for reasons of, some people say like Stockholm syndrome, kind of like, you know? Well, we definitely have Stockholm syndrome. How many years have we been stuck in this? How many years? Coming out, we have to be patient with ourselves and with our families because we're learning a lot of things so fast. I'm speaking for myself. We're learning a lot of things so fast, and it takes time because there's levels and layers to this. It's not just levels. There's layers within the levels. Yeah. And we're finding that there's a lot of wickedness out there, especially in the pulpit. You can think that that minister is leading you to Zion, and there's a lot of wickedness in the pulpit. I've experienced it for myself, and I'll tell you about that another day. But be patient with your loved ones. Open up for conversation. Come with receipts. Instead of game night, have a night where y'all bring your receipts, and everybody have a certain amount of time to elaborate on their finds. How about that? And I think that would be helpful right now. And I'm grateful that I was able to come on here and just say be careful, because a lot of these men who want to keep you bounded in religion, they hold a powerful book that had energy from its author. But King James is not the author of my faith. Nope. Nope. So let's be very careful who we allow to give us our rituals. Because if you have a ritual that was given to you by someone who was a master in demonic rituals or sorcery, or why did they get him to do the administrating of this book? Why? Hmm? Careful, because when you're pointing at your loved ones, some of them may not be doing right. You need to have a conversation. Know who you are. It's not good for everybody to have knowing of who they are and what they can do. But at the same time, I almost feel like I did when Obama was being voted in. I was like, let us mess up something. Who cares? It's our turn. We'll give it a shot. That's gambling. That's taking a gamble. So Sometimes we feel like it's better for people not to have gifts. We're gods. Can you imagine if we get our spiritual gifts, if we get aligned back up with the frequency of Gaia? Can you imagine? Can you imagine seeing a bunch of us fully endowed? We need to learn how to act right now. We don't, you know what? We don't need, we don't need to be practicing dancing and all that. We need to really seriously start playing some intellectual games here with our family members, having some conversations. Instead of partying and all that, let's sit down. Sit down. What are you going through? Are you seeking? What have you found? And then where are we at mentally, emotionally? Where are we? What are we thinking? How are we communicating in life? Because before you get any spiritual gifts, before you start learning any of the occult, I guess what they call it. I don't even like that word, but I mean, it is what it is. I'm still growing. Ain't my comfort. Christianity. Stockholm Syndrome did a number on me too. But we don't want anyone to take on certain gifts and they're going to be acting like fools with it. You get a gun and start shooting your whole family. Excuse me, a pew pew. That's crazy. We don't want that. No, no, no. We don't want to deal in dark activities against ourselves. And we see so much black on black. We see so much pain. When you look in the mirror and you're hating yourself, of course you're going to hate your parents. Of course you're going to hate your brother. Of course everybody's going to be in the way. Of course you're going to feel like there's not enough. There's lack. It's called lack mentality. So we have to first find out who we're sitting with and where they're at. Help them to get to a healthy place and install some pride. Pride helps. When you have pride, you're good. Because you're going to love your neighbor. Because you realize that we're all connected. So what's happening in the black community is also happening in the white community. They don't even realize to what degree. There's no way we're in the age of revelation that America is going to be made great again. That's not going to happen. Not and be called the United States of America. Mm-mm. But change is here. So as we cultivate, whether you be called chosen one, whether you are one in your family that has picked up the baton and want to continue or create a great legacy for your family's namesake, even if you had to create or do a deep search for that name. So that's all I had to say. And thank you very much. You know, I hope that you could speak the video up and watch it. I should have said that at the beginning. But it's cool. Have some conversations. Like and subscribe. Peace. How do I get off? How do I get on? How do I get on?